Hey, 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 streaming gang, it's Thursday and welcome back to the stream. We are live from Miami, Florida, where I live. We had quite the lively night last night at the presidential debate, and I know I promised you guys we would be doing some post-debate analysis on the stream today. We're actually going to hold that over for tomorrow because I have a few more thoughts that I want to put together, and I'm going to have some of my other Gen Z conservative friends joining me on the stream tomorrow, which will be a really great conversation. We will go off, trust me, on TikTok. We will go off on the generational divide. We've got a lot to talk about, and I know I was a little spicy yesterday on social media last night, so I promise all of that is coming, but we're going to do post-debate analysis tomorrow on the stream. Meanwhile, today, I'm actually really glad that we have an opportunity to cover something a little bit unrelated to the 2024 elections and politics. It's somewhat related, but is different, and that is this rise of anti-Semitism that we're seeing on college campuses. Today is going to be a bit of a heavier stream, covering some more difficult topics than probably what you were expecting from a very lighthearted anger at political parties stream. So totally understand if this isn't the stream that you guys want to hang out for, but I highly encourage you to stick around for the entirety of today's stream. This is really important information that very few people are covering, and the mainstream media is largely refusing to cover. And I think it's really important that whoever has the opportunity to share the truth about what's happening on campus using their platform, that we do so, and that sometimes it's not about what you want to say, it's about what the world needs you to speak up about. I've seen some messages in the chat already. Why are we suddenly focusing on this? What about other kids that are dying every day? Are you just biased on this subject? In no way, shape, or form is this intended to be biased in any way. I'm simply trying to uncover objective reality of what's happening on college campuses in the United States of America, in Canada, and around the West, and trying to do what I can with the little platform that I do have here on the stream and my other social media platforms to say that never again is now, and that the completely disgusting rise of violent anti-Semitism that we're seeing around the world is unacceptable and requires that somebody speak up about it. Very few people already are, and so hopefully this encourages other people to use their platform to do exactly the same thing, regardless of what you feel about the very specific nuance of government intervention or particular terrorist groups when it comes to the Israel-Hamas conflict or other conflicts with Israel and other groups around the Middle East in the past. I hope and I pray that we can all agree at the end of this live stream that what is happening is unacceptable, and it's time for us to find the common humanity in one another. So that is why we are doing this topic on the stream today. In the meantime, as we are getting started, please do me a huge favor and hit the like button on this stream. That might look like a little thumbs up or a little heart button, depending on where you're watching. Make sure that you ring the notification bell so that you always know when we are going live or uploading a different video. And most importantly, smash that follow or subscribe button wherever you guys are watching. I am a truly independent creator. You might not know that if you are new around here. So this stream is not produced or put on by anybody, any media company, let alone a very wealthy media company. It is just me hanging out in the spare bedroom of my apartment, figuring it out one day at a time, but trying to tell the truth in a world that really doesn't value doing that. So every single time that you guys hit follow or subscribe, it makes such a huge difference, and we are so appreciative of all of you. Let's say hi to some people really quick before we uncover some of these stories emerging from the hearts of college campuses in the West. Over on Locals, we've got Crazy Cat Lady, Alex Padron, Daniel Maynard, M-Rock, we've got Magic Def and Johnny Diamond, African Warlord, and more tuning in. On a Rumble, Craven and John Best kick things off for us in the chat. Hey guys, so glad that you are here. And we've got a bunch of people tuning in. Don't forget to use our live chat feature throughout the stream today, Rumble, because we want to know what you guys think. Over on YouTube, Total Package, Edward and Ava are tuning in. Joshua's here. Northern Wanderer's here. We've got Chess watching. Jacinta and Gator Kellogg are here. We've got Shalom watching. I come for the Israel streams. The mainstream media is so biased. We try to remove all of the bias in the narrative and just show you guys firsthand accounts about what's going on with this subject. So I hope that we can try to do that as best as we can over here. Obadiah and Dutch Canadian are here. We've got Dan watching from Atlanta. G-Fact is here. Brenda, so good to see you. 23 Fresh and more. You guys are the GOATs, and I'm so glad that you are here on this beautiful Thursday. All right, I want to jump right in and make the most of our time because I do have a bit of a hard out this afternoon. I'm planning my wedding in the midst of trying to run all of these things for the stream and all of my other content. So it's been a really crazy couple of weeks, but it is very exciting. And I have to talk to some wedding vendors this afternoon back in Colorado. So let's just jump right in and not waste any time. I decided to cover this subject on the stream today when we decided to push debate analysis to tomorrow because of a story that was coming out last night while I was sitting in the audience at the Republican debate, the RNC debate hosted by NBC News here in Miami. I was listening to all of the answers and simultaneously scrolling through social media to make sure that there wasn't much that I was missing out there in the world. And there was this story from Concordia University in Montreal in Canada. Any Canadians, chat, speak up. We'd love to see you out there. That was really alarming and frankly should be alarming to everyone, regardless of where you think you might fall on this Israel-Hamas conflict, where you think you might fall on supporting the state of Israel or not. This conflict that happened at Concordia University should make you at the very least really uneasy about the rising tensions that are happening on college campuses in the West, not just in America, but in Canada and beyond. I'm going to go to CBC News, the Canadian broadcasting company, to just give you the overview of what happened, and then we're going to react to some video footage of what happened at Concordia University. But in case you guys didn't already know, there was this huge altercation that broke out last night because a Jewish student organization decided to set up a memorial for all of the people who have been abducted by Hamas, the terrorist organization, and then a pro-Palestinian group of students came in and they all basically started fighting with each other in this violent altercation. Several people were injured. One person has been arrested after assaulting a security guard. Very intensive situation, but is mirrored in so many other interactions we're seeing on college campuses as well. This is from CBC News, published last night, pretty late last night. The university president came forward and said that on that day, yesterday on campus, there were about 3 or more potentially violent incidences that were happening at Concordia University alone. Again, we're just zooming out to the 30,000 foot level here, and then I'm going to show you some video footage about what happened. But essentially yesterday at Concordia University in Montreal, a 22-year-old student was arrested after allegedly assaulting a 54-year-old security guard during a violent altercation involving several people who align with opposing sides of the conflict in Israel and Gaza. Around 1:30 p.m., calls were made to 911 regarding a conflict downtown near McKay Street, according to Montreal police spokesperson. When police arrived on the scene, they assisted security guards who were trying to manage a conflict between several students. The altercation began with an argument between two groups of students who have opposing views about the war in the Middle East. It then escalated to violence. The arrested student was later released on a promise to appear in court. But a second security guard and another student, who was 23 years old, were injured by assaults during the altercation. They all suffered non-threatening injuries, thank goodness, non-life-threatening injuries, and were not transported to the hospital. There are countering points of view emerging as to how the situation devolved into violence. So it kind of depends on what you think, but we're going to watch the video footage so you guys can make up your minds for yourselves. A second-year student at Concordia is part of a group called Jews on Campus, said that Jews on Campus was trying to hold a peaceful demonstration inside the university's hall building in support of the hostages taken by Hamas. By the time she arrived at the demonstration, which was a Shabbat table set up to honor the hostages, she heard yelling and saw a crowd chanting pro-Palestinian slogans surrounding the table. A few tables down, there was a different table set up to sell traditional Arab headdresses to raise money for humanitarian aid in Gaza. This student said it was very productive at the beginning, but then slowly things started to take a turn. The crowd became increasingly hostile, and people at the Shabbat table quickly became outnumbered. She said a bunch of people came up to the table calling the Jewish students on campus murderers. Some of us noticed our classmates there. The altercation deteriorated with punches thrown and more shouting until police and campus security succeeded in separating the groups. The pro-Palestinian crowd continued to demonstrate outside of the university, and the other students were escorted off campus by security guards. She described the situation as very, very scary as a Jewish person on campus. A different girl from the other side of the conflict said that she stopped by before the confrontation started to buy one of those traditional Arab headdress scarves from students who had a pro-Palestinian kiosk set up to raise money for a charity. She said that a group of pro-Israel people came barging in, so that it was the other way around, and began screaming anti-Palestinian slogans and slurs at them. Pro-Palestinian students then surged in to counter-demonstrate, and it quickly led to violence, she said. She said many pro-Palestinian demonstrators were attacked fact, and she, along with others, have submitted evidence to the police for that fact. I think it just goes to show, she says, how Palestinian and pro-Palestinian students have been faced with an onslaught of harassment and discrimination and doxing, which we can see is happening as we speak of this incident. Again, this was just one of 3 separate incidences that took place at Concordia University in Montreal yesterday, all involving violence or incitement to violence, according to the president and vice chancellor of the university. The other incidences included a social media post from a student group that could reasonably be construed as citing violence, and the discovery of swastikas in a university building, all on the exact same day that this protest that devolved into people fighting ended up happening. So let me just say at the outset of this, before we start reacting to all of the video footage, behaving like this as adults, yes, you are college students, but behaving like this of you as adults is completely unacceptable. Like, you are a grown adult. Sure, we can pretend that you're like halfway in, halfway out of the adult stage when you're on campus. And yes, I completely understand that there are people who get very passionate about particular social issues, especially on college campuses, and especially when they've been indoctrinated to believe one thing or another. I'm totally understanding of that. But drawing swastikas all over campus, calling for violence against your fellow students on social media, and throwing punches to students that disagree with you on a conflict that's happening on the other side of the globe is completely unacceptable, and you absolutely warrant receiving disciplinary action from the university or from the police and from the Justice Department that inevitably would prosecute you for this. I'm not exactly sure how that process works in Canada, but you absolutely deserve punishment for your behavior in that way, shape, or form. So this has turned into like a he said, she said situation, but meanwhile, on the exact same day, just blocks away from Concordia University in downtown Montreal, on the exact same day, again, so this was going into this morning and late last night, many shots were fired overnight into at least 2 yeshivas. This is from a Jewish news site called the Yeshiva World, and there's a lot of ads, so I apologize about that. But overnight, shots were fired. Guns in Canada, where, I'm sorry, I'm pretty sure guns were illegal to buy, and only, horrible people would ever even consider doing something like that because it's illegal and we're so safe here and there's no gun violence in Canada. No, there is. Shots were fired overnight into at least 2 yeshivas, which are basically teaching institutions and schools for the Jewish community there in Montreal. Police are currently on the scene early this morning, where it appears the shots were fired around 4:30 a.m. before yeshiva began. Thankfully, there were no injuries reported. There were bullets shot into an elementary school as well, just down the street. Additionally, there are reports of a possible 3rd location. So this is happening all over Montreal yesterday and now going into this morning. This incident comes on the heels of an attempted firebombing at a Jewish organization in Montreal, sparking growing fears of anti-Jewish radicals roaming the streets of the Canadian city and certainly infiltrating college campuses there in Montreal and around Canada as well. So again, that's just the 30,000-foot news level of what's going on. Any Canadians in the chat, anybody who lives in Montreal wants to speak up, I'd be really curious to hear what you guys are experiencing on the ground this morning and this afternoon. But let's just take a look at what the video footage has to say, and I'm dying to get your guys' reaction. Oh, here we go.
University campuses are supposed to be a safe space for all students, professors, and staff, including for Jewish people. But we're seeing that that is not the case at universities across the United States and Canada, such as with this situation that is happening right now in Montreal, where Jewish students gathered for an event about the hostages being held by Hamas in Gaza.
Just watch this. Punched in the face. Did you see that? I'm going to back it up. This guy in the black punches the kid in the red hoodie in the face.
Students gathered for an event about the hostages being held by Hamas in Gaza.
Not okay.
What kind of guard are you? What kind of guard?
This is not what a university is supposed to look like.
You're in our space. We're good. Sir.
That's just one video. Here's another. Slightly different angle. Punching.
What kind of
Violent
guard are you?
assaults.
What kind of guard? You're in our space. Police, sir, I have about 5 videos of him getting aggressive. The one, can I tell you?
Come here, I'll punch you. Come here.
Yes!
Come stand over here, I'll attack you. Unbelievable. You might see a story like this and just instantaneously assume that this is happening in isolation, right? That this is only happening at one school. You can't assume this is happening everywhere. Not everybody protests violently. Of course, not everybody protests violently. And I want to say before we dive into some of the further investigation into this is I'm seeing a lot of really productive debate happening, especially in the right of center political space, about where you draw the line for free speech and how you continue prioritizing the protection of free speech and free expression at all costs. I 100% understand that. I am nothing if not as much of a free speech absolutist as you can possibly get myself, but I'm seeing everybody focus solely on, well, you're allowed to be racist. You're allowed to be anti-Semitic. You're allowed to have really hateful, horrible ideas. Again, I agree with that. I think the best way to defeat bad ideas is with good ideas, right? So when you see actual peaceful protests happening, when you see people screaming horrible phrases and really horrible names at people, like, that sucks and that's terrible, but the answer is not to silence those people, in my opinion, as much as you can. The answer is to try to beat their bad ideas with good ideas. But basically no one participating in this debate over how do we protect free speech while also try to give people the right ideas about the Israel-Gaza conflict and the truth about Hamas as a terrorist organization, nobody is talking about when it escalates into violence. And it's happening everywhere. It's not just happening at Concordia. It's not just happening in these particular videos in isolation. The line somewhat has to exist between when it becomes completely unacceptable to punch people in the face, to attack them violently, to destroy their private property, and to try to share, if not act out, death threats against somebody for the crime of being Jewish on your college campus. Nobody is having that conversation. And I don't know if it's just because we are so obsessed with the idea of, well, even if they have a horrible idea, they still have free speech. Yes, they do have free speech until you start throwing punches at somebody, until you start setting their dorm rooms on fire, which is a real story that I am about to tell you, until you start trying to kill people, until you say that it's time to end someone's life or even massive groups of people on your college campus's life because of the crime of who they were born to be. When are we going to start talking about that? I don't know if people are just so unaware that this is happening or it doesn't fit a particular political narrative that this is happening, but it is so alarming to me that all of the people who are having this, again, very, very productive, important debate about protecting free speech on campuses, people like me with podcasts and going on TV and talking about politics, and I get it. I participate in that conversation all the time. But it's alarming to me that this side of the story isn't even being talked about, isn't even being brought up, isn't even being tweeted by 90% of the people who are having this conversation. And it should be, because again, it is not just happening in isolation at Concordia University. It's happening all over the United States and in Canada as well. I told you one alarming headline. Let's jump right into that. The College Fix reported on October 30th that at Drexel University, a Jewish student's dorm room door was set on fire intentionally to try to burn that person to death or burn their private property. It's obviously a bit difficult to tell, but let's see what the College Fix has to say. A Jewish student at Drexel University was targeted in an apparently anti-Semitic incident just days after Hamas's deadly terror attacks. An unknown assailant lit the student's dorm room door on fire at Drexel University in Philadelphia. The College Fix obtained an email from the Drexel Public Safety Office sent to students the morning after the fire on the evening of October 10th, a few days following the October 7th Hamas invasion. According to the email, the Philadelphia Fire Department responded, and it was determined that the decorations on the residence hall door had been intentionally set on fire. The Drexel Public Safety Daily Incident Report lists the arson investigation as pending. I haven't checked since this was updated on October 30th, but I'm sure it's still going to be pending. The president of the university issued a statement on October 11th and said, "Unfortunately, we were made aware of a distressing situation that included destruction inside of our residence halls. Thankfully, no one was injured. The investigation into this incident is ongoing, and we will update the community once it has concluded." This is obviously being shared pretty much everywhere on social media. No other door was vandalized other than this Jewish student's door, and the student believed that she was targeted due to her outspoken support of Israel. Police are allegedly investigating this as a potential hate crime. How about at other universities in the United States, like Tulane University? In case you didn't see that, I'm going to back it up, where pro-Palestinian students start throwing punches at pro-Israeli and Jewish students. This is not what a college campus is supposed to look like. How about Harvard University? Notoriously maybe the worst campus to be on in the midst of all of this, especially if you are Jewish. There was a group of almost every single student-registered organization on campus at Harvard that said Israel was unilaterally to blame because of all of the invasion from Hamas into their southern border and started calling for violence against Jews. Watch this. Cornered a Jewish student, prevented him from walking anywhere, and start screaming in his face while they're pushing him around and preventing him from walking to safety on his own college campus. Notably, this guy with the bleached hair on top in the construction vest is the editor of the Harvard Law Review. Let's play that again. Unbelievable. I think I have one more video to show you guys.
Bro,
and then we know that this isn't happening just on college campuses anymore. Because it's so normal on college campuses, this is trickling down to high schools as well. This happened in Las Vegas at a high school where an autistic Jewish teenager was attacked while he was at school in Las Vegas, and someone carved a swastika into his back while he was at school.
Who the fuck you are? You don't ever do that. This just proves to me that some kids really need to get their ass beat. Now, whoever the parents are of the kids that did this, I just want to have a little chat. Because who the fuck do those kids think they are to carve a swastika on a Jewish boy's back? The rise of anti-Semitism needs to stop. I'm tired of my people going through this shit.
Swastika carved into your back while you are at school. And you might be asking yourself, well, where are the professors? Where are the university administrators? Where are the real grown-ups on campus who should be saying, enough, stop behaving this way? Well, naturally, they are participating in all of this insanity. There is a very clear reason why this anti-Semitism is thriving from the hearts of academia and thriving from the hearts of college campuses. It's because it's being encouraged and incentivized by professors and university administrators on so many of these campuses. For example, UPenn several months ago had a panelist event called the Palestine Rights Festival. And one of the people that they invited to participate in this Palestine Rights, WRITES, like Writers Festival at UPenn, ended up tweeting a whole host of a barrage of insane anti-Semitic things on social media, like this. Stop Antisemitism tweeted this on October 30th. This anti-Semitic monster was one of the panelists for the Palestine Rights Festival at UPenn that President Liz McGill refused to move off campus. This happened on campus at the University of Pennsylvania, an Ivy League school. He's making fun of a baby who was murdered in an oven by Hamas terrorists as the baby's mother was being raped. Somebody shared this story that was emerging out of Israel a few weeks ago. It's very difficult to talk about. It's horrible. That a baby was found in an oven that they baked to death alive. This has been confirmed by the IDF. This has been confirmed by many news organizations in Israel. While their mother was raped in front of them and they were baked to death in an oven. And what this upheld by UPenn panelist, invited guest to campus, had to say was with or without baking powder. Sit with that one for a minute. With or without baking powder. So that's where the real grown-ups are on campus. That's what they're participating in and what they want you to focus on, apparently. You guys probably also might remember that earlier this week there was a Jewish man, an elderly Jewish man in Los Angeles who unfortunately passed away because of trauma to his head after he was attacked by a counter protester when they had this gathering in Los Angeles to try to bring attention to the hostages from Hamas that are still being held hostages, including American citizens, by the way. So where the hell is our own government? This elderly man named Paul Kessler was standing outside trying to raise awareness very peacefully for what was happening with these hostages, and a pro-Palestinian activist came and hit Paul Kessler over the head with a megaphone. Ollie London was tweeting about this earlier this week. According to a witness, a verbal altercation broke out after this young counter-protester saw Paul Kessler, this elderly man, holding an Israeli flag. The assailant then struck him over the head with a megaphone, and he began bleeding and fell to the ground. He was rushed to a nearby hospital, but he died from a brain hemorrhage. This is the video playing on loop that they obtained from the scene. You can see him bleeding all over from his head, like he has clearly multiple injuries to his brain and to his head, and there's blood all over the sidewalk. Literally hours later at the hospital, he died from blunt force trauma to the head. And obviously this is a horrible situation, but the crazy twist ending to all of it is the person who assaulted him is a college professor, somebody who probably has tenure and is teaching university students this type of behavior is encouraged by his own actions, but probably is teaching all kinds of insane things happening in his classroom as well. He was questioned by police at the scene of the incident. He's now been identified as the primary suspect in the fatal attack on Paul Kessler, who is dead, who has been murdered violently from blunt force trauma to the head for the crime of being Jewish and holding an Israeli flag. That's it. That's all he did. Was beaten to death over the head with a megaphone by a college professor. So that's where these college professors are. That's where the real grown-ups happening to support all of this stuff on college campuses are. They're participating in it every single day. They're participating in it and they are encouraging it. And naturally, it is spreading all over the Western world to every major college campus in America, in Canada, and beyond, to the point that this is not really a debate about how to protect freedom of speech as much as humanly possible. That debate matters, and it should always be happening because you're allowed to have a bad idea and you're allowed to be racist. Like, that's true. You're allowed to be anti-Semitic under law. You shouldn't be, but you are. But the best way to defeat those guys' ideas is with better speech, with better ideas, with finding morality and goodness and beauty and truth and common shared humanity until you start attacking people, until you start destroying their private property, until you light their dorm rooms on fire and start throwing punches to people's faces, until you start violently assaulting people and beating them to death with megaphones over the head in a violent murder. Why we're talking so much about this part over here, the peaceful protesting and all that, but nobody's really talking about this part over here, blows my mind. And in the midst of all of this happening, our own United States Congress had 23 members of the House of Representatives refuse to vote on a resolution, not a bill, a resolution to universally condemn anti-Semitism on college campuses and, importantly, the violence that is happening on college campuses. I'm sure you can all guess who the people who voted against that resolution were. It's not that shocking. It's not that difficult to try to figure out. But we had 23 members of our own United States government refuse to say that aiding and abetting terrorism on your college campus, maybe even suggesting we do that against the United States government, refused to say that that was wrong. So if you think this isn't happening outside of campus, in our own government, in maybe a business that you work for, in your extended family, this is happening everywhere, all the way up to the United States House of Representatives. One of the 23 people who voted against that resolution actually has now come forward and said he should have supported it. He probably just should have supported it from the beginning, but I have to give him kudos for changing his mind because I think he shows that it's possible to change your mind, and that is Maxwell Frost. He is the youngest member of the House of Representatives in history. He's 25. He is from just north of me in Orlando and has made a lot of history being a pretty left-wing activist. I disagree with him on pretty much everything that he believes in politically, but I have cited him as a very inspiring figure to show young people that you can go outside of the establishment and make your voice heard generationally as the first Gen Z member of Congress. He came forward yesterday and The Hill published this story after he said he should have supported the resolution condemning anti-Semitism on college campuses. He probably got a whole lot of backlash from his constituents about this, which doesn't surprise me, but honestly, good for him for changing his mind and coming forward and saying something, because none of the members of the squad have done that, and they never will. None of the other 23 people who voted against this resolution will, most likely, because they've dug their heels in. But he came forward on Tuesday and said that he should have supported a House resolution, saying he came to the conclusion after talking to his constituents and local leaders. He was one of the 23 lawmakers who voted against a House resolution last week that condemned the support of Hamas, Hezbollah, and other terrorist organizations at higher education institutions in the U.S. and called on campus administrators to condemn anti-Semitism and ensure Jewish community members are protected. He was the only lawmaker from Florida to vote against the resolution. He ended up saying, after days of reflection, multiple conversations with my constituents and local leaders, and a difficult but important listening session with the Hillel chapter at UCF, I have come to realize that I should have voted differently on that House resolution to send a clear message that I stand against anti-Semitism. I think that's important. I mean, it's very unusual for a member of Congress to say, I probably should have not done that, and I changed my mind, and I want to go on public record saying that. But I doubt anybody else will follow suit, unfortunately. So we even have our own government, 23 members of our own government, refusing to say that this violence on campus, not peaceful protests, not just supporting whatever is the current flavor of the day, but violence against Jewish students on campus, refuse to say that that is wrong. Absolute insanity. Meanwhile, at another university, I believe this university is also in Canada, so forgive me if I'm wrong, chat, but anybody in Canada want to correct me on this, I do think it's important. I'm going to come back to our browser here, but McGill University, I'm pretty sure, is in Canada. I'm going to fact check this for myself right now. Hang on. We're looking this up. Yeah, it's also in Montreal, so there you go. Not a coincidence whatsoever. Down the street from Concordia University, down the street from where two yeshivas were shot overnight with guns last night. McGill University, their president, vice chancellor and principal rather, ends up having this email get leaked, and it's going all over Twitter right now, that there is a group of pro-Palestinian student protesters who are trying to organize something called a National Day of Shutdown today in terms of a rally for Gaza on their campus, and they specifically are advertising this using a poster of a group of individuals kicking and breaking glass windows. I don't have an image of the poster, unfortunately. I would love to go find one for you guys, but I just don't have it right on me. So essentially, they are advocating for this day of protest and a shutdown on campus in support of Gaza, in support of Hamas, specifically today, which holds very, very significant historical significance, and I'll get to that in a second, using an image of people kicking in and breaking glass windows on their campus, which, of course, this principal and vice chancellor is so afraid to condemn. They say, if this gathering remains peaceful. I mean, they're telling people to destroy private property, but okay, whatever. This email ends up going out to say, dear members of the McGill community, the ongoing devastating situation in the Middle East has continued to fuel intense emotions. In recent weeks, my colleagues and I have issued multiple messages calling for respectful and civil discourse, as well as compassion to bring our community together in the face of so much suffering and distress. While many of us are working hard towards this end, this is not universally the case. Yesterday, I was made aware of posters circulating on social media calling upon McGill students to participate in a national day of shutdown in support of a rally for Gaza. The poster features an image of a group of individuals kicking and breaking glass windows. Why is this significant? I can tell you all exactly why this is significant. Publicizing an event through allusions to destruction of property is troubling. Far worse is using an image of people breaking glass to encourage participation in an event planned for today, November 9th, which is the 85th anniversary of Kristallnacht. If you haven't studied much Holocaust history, this was a series of violent attacks in Nazi Germany that saw mobs smash the windows of synagogues and Jewish-owned businesses. That's downplaying it quite significantly. I'll tell you more about Kristallnacht when we're through with this email. Considering all facts and relevant context, I can only conclude that these posters are anti-Semitic. Shocking. You don't say. You don't say. They are deplorable and unacceptable, and they have no place within our campus community. I have said that within a university setting, we must give a wide berth of protection to freedom of expression, assembly, and opinion, but these freedoms are not unbridled. Their exercise can cross line into terrain where they are no longer protected by our policies, and that clearly is the case here. Given the tone of the promotional material associated with the event planned for this afternoon, I am deeply concerned for the safety of our community. Consistent with our obligations, blah, 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 I have requested the presence of additional security during the event. Should the event proceed, it must remain peaceful. I remind all students of their obligations to our code of conduct and all colleagues of their own obligations in accordance with acceptable university regulations. Saying that because presumably professors are also going to be participating in this and probably also organized the event, if we're being honest. Some students, faculty, and staff may not feel secure on our campus today, which is understandable. I ask instructors and supervisors to exercise grace, compassion, and understanding in responding to requests for accommodation. Let me close by affirming that we can and must do better. Inciting activism through communications that refer to an extremely dark day in world history marked by anti-Semitic violence is abhorrent. This will exacerbate existing tensions and will alienate and risk harm to Jewish members of the community, as well as those who are visibly Muslim and Arab. Each of these students is especially vulnerable right now. I call once more on every one of us to work together to foster an environment of compassion, inclusivity, and respect. So that happened, but you know, the event's still going on, even though Jewish students on campus feel so unbelievably unsafe that they probably didn't show up to class today, that they probably won't show up to class for the rest of the week. And I'm seeing video after video after video after video on social media of Jewish students saying that they're unenrolling from their university. They're done. They're done putting up with this. They feel like they put their life at risk every single time they step out of their front door of their dorm room. They don't feel safe going to class. They don't feel safe from their professors. How is this acceptable in 2023 in Canada and the United States? In case you haven't studied much Holocaust history, as I mentioned today, 85 years ago was an event in Nazi Germany called Kristallnacht in 1938. On the nighttime of November 9th, the Nazis, with the help of Hitler Youth, destroyed, looted, and ransacked Jewish-owned businesses, buildings, and synagogues. This night became known as the Night of Broken Glass, or in German, Kristallnacht. 267 synagogues on this night, and 7,000 Jewish businesses were attacked. 30,000 Jewish men were arrested or incarcerated, and 91 Jews were murdered. Kristallnacht became one of the most widely reported events between 1938 and 1945 in regards to what was really happening to the Jewish community in Germany. Today, attacks toward the Jewish community continue, including a man murdered in Los Angeles after being hit in the head with a megaphone. We just talked about that. The targeting, harassment, violence towards, and oppression of any people group goes against human rights violations, every human rights violation imaginable, and repeating this part of history is not only dangerous, but also unfathomable. It is unfathomable. And honestly, I don't know how much this can continue to escalate without a massive, massive rise in violent crime, which we're seeing now based on the norm that's happening on college campuses. I talk a lot about campus, obviously, because I spend a whole lot of time speaking on campuses. I wrote my first book, Frontlines, about my experience on campus and how that propelled me into activism in the world of politics and current events and culture that I work in today. And I've often said that what happens on college campuses never stays on college campuses. It graduates with students, and then it ends up permeating every single other aspect of our culture because these ideas become so normalized that they end up working their way into everything else as well. We see that all the time. I think we're seeing that most clearly with gender theory permeating American culture. We see that with the lies from the abortion industry permeating American culture, modern feminism, destroying marriages and families. Now, after we've graduated from college, I think we can keep going example by example by example on this, but these ideas graduate with us, and then they trickle their way all the way back through the education system, because who's graduating from college? Teachers, and then they end up going and teaching this stuff to younger and younger people. Who's graduating from college? Businessmen and women who bring this stuff into corporate boardrooms. Who's graduating from college? The next generation of U.S. Congress people and U.S. senators. So this is permeating the halls of Congress now. It's also happening with this violent anti-Semitism. And it's not taking quite as long as needing these students to graduate and make this more normal, although I'm sure the last several years of the pro-BDS, boycott Israel, pro-Palestine generation that I went to school with graduating has certainly participated in this rise of violent anti-Semitism, but it's not even taking as much time as needing these students to graduate and bring the ideas with them. What's happening on college campuses is inspiring what's happening all over the country this week as well. Last night, for example, was a movie screening at the Museum of Tolerance, Holocaust Museum in Los Angeles. Quite ironic. They were having a movie screening for a documentary showing the Hamas atrocities over the past several years, and particularly on October the 7th, and rioters gathered outside of the venue of the Museum of Tolerance to violently attack people attending or supporting the documentary screening. It was rumored to be organized by Israeli actress Gal Gadot, who's been incredibly outspoken about what's happening with the violence from Hamas in the last several days and getting a lot of flack for it in Hollywood. So Andy No ended up tweeting this. I'm not going to play the audio because it's incredibly distressing and I'll just talk over it anyway. But this happened outside of the Museum of Tolerance in Los Angeles. The video is going to get ready to loop. I'll just bring it back to the beginning for us, where protesters started violently attacking anybody who wanted to go and educate themselves about this, to go and watch a documentary screening of what's happening with real video footage, and we're punching each other in the face. Here's another video of this Museum of Tolerance attack. This looks like something out of The Last of Us or The Walking Dead. Like, we're just downtown LA, walking through all the streets, violently attacking people. And the cars are just like there. Everybody's just like there. Everybody's just watching. I genuinely cannot begin to wrap my head around this. Everybody's just watching this happen. And wearing their masks, of course, because they're good little Los Angeles citizens. Making sure they're not spreading COVID while they attack each other. You can hear the screams of Free Palestine while they're punching everybody. And somebody's like playing Usher in the background. That's 2023 America, apparently. This happened in New York City. Today. Palestinian activists in New York City hit a Jewish man with a chair in the latest spate of violence against the Jewish community. Days ago, a Jewish man was killed by a Palestinian activist in Los Angeles after being hit over the head with a megaphone. So now we're just assaulting people with chairs and applauding it. You can see the guy clapping in the background. Thank you for violently hurting this man. You can see the blood streaming down from his head. I'm going to start this video over. Ha 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 ha. Oh, this makes me sick. And applauding it. Thank you. Thank you for hurting this man. This is now the norm because of the norms that we've accepted and the norms that we have said nothing about, the norms that we sat down and shut up about because we were afraid of what? Backlash? Because we were afraid of people being angry at us on Instagram? These are the norms that we have allowed to thrive and populate and grow. So you might be asking yourself, okay, this is horrible, but what do I do about it? Okay, this is horrible, but what about the other side? Okay, this is horrible, but. Stop asking yourself, but. Stop trying to justify what is happening to make yourself feel better about being cowardly or make yourself feel better about your worldview. If those videos that I just showed you today of people getting punched in the face, people having their dorm rooms set on fire, people being hit over the head with chairs and megaphones, people being violently murdered with a megaphone. If that doesn't stir in your soul any level of uneasiness, uncomfortability, a deep-seated knowing that something is wrong here, please, I beg of you, take a minute and just think about what's broken there. Because I don't care how you feel about the state or government of Israel or this particular prime minister of Israel. I don't care what your religious background is. I don't care what you think you know about the Middle East and how we all are pretending to be foreign policy experts today. I don't care. And you shouldn't either. If you care about humanity, if you care about peace, not in the cheesy coexist bumper sticker version, but like genuine peace and coexistence among people, if you care about yourself, if you care about a free society, everything I just showed you should make you feel wildly uncomfortable, if not angry and upset and spurred and ignited to do something about it. And doing something about it doesn't have to look like this magical overhaul of your whole life and becoming a full-time activist for all of this stuff. It might just look like posting something, saying something, telling someone what you just said or what you just did is unacceptable. Because the really sad reality of this is that never again is now. All of my Jewish friends have been posting this on their social media. Those who live in Israel, those who live in America, and everywhere else around the world. Never again. What we say about the Holocaust, what we say about nights like Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass that we're trying to apparently repeat in Canada on college campuses, is never again. What we say about the dehumanization of Jewish people through propaganda in the media is never again. And yet, here we are. Never again is now. And the really insane, broken, disgusting truth of all of this is that if you really care about any human being, particularly innocent Palestinians that are being victimized by this conflict, what the hell are you doing supporting Hamas? What the hell are you doing supporting a terrorist organization that is quite literally using children as human shields? What the hell are you doing saying that Hamas is not a terrorist organization, which I'm seeing with all these man-on-the-street interviews on college campuses on TikTok, saying that they're the better alternative than a country where you can practice freedom of religion, than a country where they have the largest number of entrepreneurs per capita of anywhere else on the world, on the globe, where there is a Muslim in the Israeli Supreme Court, where 20% of the population is Arab, Muslim, or Christian, and they're thriving in society. How is a terrorist organization that has zero regard for human life a better alternative to you if you care about preserving human life? I have played the mental gymnastics game of this for the past month, and I just cannot at all attempt to understand how people are so ignorant, blind, or just willfully stupid about this. Because I do care. I do care about the innocent Palestinian women and children that are being victimized by this, and men too. I do care that people are dying because of violence in Gaza. I absolutely care about that. And I'm tired of being told that I don't, by the way. I'm tired of being told I'm just a shill for Israel and I'm getting paid by the Israeli government. No, I'm not an Israeli citizen. I'm not even Jewish. I just care about people, care about humanity. I have a platform that I'm expected to use to tell the truth, so I'm going to do that even if I get backlash from it. But I also care about Palestinian people and Arab people. I'm tired of women and children being killed for political reasons or gain in Afghanistan and Iran and Syria and Yemen under Hezbollah and the Taliban and ISIS as well as Hamas. I'm also tired of the violent anti-Semitism and complete dehumanization of my Jewish friends that I'm seeing all over social media. It is unacceptable and it is not okay. And this is the part where I use the more speech part to tell you that your speech is stupid if you do in fact believe that. That for whatever reason, you are blind to the humanity of people who might be different from you, which is unacceptable and not okay. And I am also using this opportunity to tell those who say we should be doing absolutely everything we can to protect free speech. I agree with you, but I also think it's probably time for us to have a conversation of this is going beyond speech. We're hitting people over the head at protests with chairs. We're killing people in violent murders with megaphones for the crime of holding the flag of Israel in the United States of America today. We're lighting Jewish students' dorm rooms on fire because we hate them so much. We're having students so afraid to walk around their own college campus that they are locked in libraries. That happened at Columbia this week. We're preventing Jewish students from walking around Harvard University's campus to even just go to safety in the privacy of their own dorm room, and instead we're harassing and pushing them around. We're violently assaulting them. We're throwing punches and encouraging Crystal Knocked 2.0 in Canada. In Canada, where people are so polite that you can't even bump into somebody on the sidewalk without saying, "Oop, sorry about that. Sorry about that. Sorry, I have to work on my Canadian accent." At what point are we going to have the conversation of it's going beyond speech? Because it is, and it's unacceptable. You're allowed to have bad ideas. You are not allowed to kill someone because of their identity, because of their religion, because of their support for someone else's identity or religion. And the gross irony of all of this is that if this were another story, if we were able to move some story pieces around on the storyboard here about who our media, who our social media, who our college professors are considering to be the victims of all of this, it would be an entirely different script and an entirely different outcome. So I'm here. I've decided to just say something about it because I care, and you should care. You should care if you're Christian about the Jewish people. You should care if you are Jewish, obviously, about the Jewish people. You should care if you are Muslim about the Jewish people, because there is only one country in the Middle East that supports true freedom of religion, and it's Israel. Fun fact. You should care if you're atheist. You should just care if you're a human being, because other human beings are being violently attacked for the crime of being human. Never again is now. And I'm probably going to lose a zillion followers over this stream again. It's fine. I did that a few weeks ago. It's fine. It's okay. It's not why I do what I do. But I just want to encourage everybody who has a platform, speak up and say something about the destruction of innocent life on every side of this conflict. Speak up and say something about the dehumanization of other people that we are seeing unfold before our very eyes with every passing day. And speak up and say never again. Because if we don't, I don't know who else will. Heavy stream, but an important message to be sharing. If you guys are feeling at all involved in some of this victimization on your own college campus, please, please, please know that I am praying for you. I am more than happy to try to share as many stories as I can. So if you guys have any more information about the conflict in Israel that you have a personal testimony for, or anything that's happening on your college campus, as always, please feel free to reach out and share it with me. I kind of went over time there, so I apologize for our locals community. Locals, I am going to have to push our post-stream Q&A because I have to jump on a wedding planning call. Much different change of pace, so I need like 30 seconds to switch my brain status. But I'm really grateful for you guys being here, and I'm grateful for you guys taking the opportunity to share this message. Locals, we have a new episode of Domus coming to you tonight. I'm about to go off on some things, so get excited. Clearly, I'm very passionate about all of this today, and we will do a post-stream Q&A probably later this evening over on Locals that all of you guys will be invited to. I'll make sure to drop the link in the description of this video on whatever platform that you are watching on so that you guys can join us for that. In the meantime, if you guys could do me a huge, huge favor before our post-debate analysis stream tomorrow, where we're going to have some friends. Should I give it away? I'm going to give it away. CJ Pearson and Xavier joining us. I'm super excited. I am pumped. I'm very excited to share all of that with you. So if you guys want to join us tomorrow for that, do me a huge favor and hit the like button on this stream. That might look like a little thumbs up or a little heart. Make sure that you ring that notification bell so that you know when we're going live. And most importantly, smash that follow or subscribe button so that you guys can always be around for every step of the journey here. If you guys totally disagreed with every single thing that I said today, that's okay. And I want to invite you to come back tomorrow because you're allowed to disagree on this stream. In fact, we highly encourage it. But if this is something that resonated with you, I highly encourage you to share this stream with others so that they're at least aware about what's going on college campuses, that it's not just waving flags and screaming slogans. It's escalating into something much more concerning. Appreciate you guys helping me get the word out there so that other people can be aware, and grateful for all of you in our continued quest for truth here on the stream. I love you guys so much. We'll see you tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern.